So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Pure Digital Passion Podcast. I'm your host, Moses Kemibaro. As Kenya's digital economy has taken off, so have the risks. And between April and June 2025 alone, more than 4.5 billion cyber threat events were recorded in Kenya. And over the year, we're estimated to have had lost nearly 29.9 billion shillings, about $230 million to cybercrime. Basically, these aren't just IT problems, they're real economic shocks for businesses, consumers, and public institutions. Today's conversation sits right at the heart of that reality. My guest is Gbemisola Osunrinde, the Chief Executive Officer of Smartcomply, an African-built digital trust and cybersecurity company that is formally entering the Kenyan market today, with an executive breakfast called the Secure Horizon here in Nairobi. Along with the market entry, Smartcomply is also launching a new research report with TechCabal titled The AI and Cyber Frontier, Securing East Africa's Digital Future. We're going to talk about our personal journey, the Smartcomply story, why Kenya and why now, and what their new report tells us about the future of AI-driven cyber risk and digital trust in Kenya and across East Africa. Gbemisola, a very warm welcome to the Pure Digital Passion podcast.
Thank you very much, Moses. Glad to be here.
So let's jump right in. And I'd like to sort of maybe have a bit of a backdrop or your backstory.
Okay.
Before you started the company, when you look back at your early career and your life, what experiences or moments nudged you towards the world of risk, compliance, and digital trust?
That's an interesting question. So this will go far back as 2012, 2013 years, where I was working with a company called Inlax Computers. I was more focused on the hardware engineering parts where you have to fix systems, get the server running, have the antivirus on place, and basically the hardware part of the business. And it was from that aspect that I got to see that information security was much larger than just focus on the hardware. We had the hardware, we had the software, and apart from that, we also had the policies that were driving it. And that was what brought my insight into cybersecurity and management. And then when I was done with them, I went to do my master's in cybersecurity and management. And that was where the floodgate opened. And I
Fantastic.
started focusing more on the cyber risk side, seeing where the risks are, what are the solutions you need to put in place to ensure that the risk doesn't affect you as an individual and also as an organization. And then consulting for some big banks in Nigeria and across the globe, and then which led me to where I am now, where I have a good team, a very expert team that I'm working with, that we are developing that solution to help address the African narratives and African problems in the cybersecurity space.
Fantastic.
Covers risk, compliance, and governance.
Fantastic. So cybersecurity can be quite abstract until it hits you personally or professionally. I think we've all heard those stories with people, and maybe in our own personal experiences, we've seen it. On this basis, was there a particular incident or pattern that made you say, we need to build this company?
Okay, so this will be a live experience where I was working with Main One, and when putting, so Main One is a telecom firm in
Yeah, the
Nigeria.
fiber
Yes,
undersea
fiber,
cable, huh?
yes. And we had a data center too. And because of that, we had to put some compliance structures in place. And because of that, we had to put some compliance structure into place. And it was manual, it was rigorous. You had to deal with lots of documentations. You had to work on the Excel sheet, just make sure that everything was tallied together before you have the internal auditors come in and before the external auditors. And it was really rigorous. And having to get everybody in the room just to get that in place and get everybody well coordinated to address the narrative was a lot. And that was where the thinking came. And that was when I met with one of the founders of Smartcomply. Um, so we got talking and we're like, okay, how can we help the African space address this manual process of getting compliance? And that was where Smartcomply was bettered, where we developed a automated solution that helps you have a seamless compliance process without having a manual rigorous part of it, where you can have your documents on the platform And you can also assign tasks to your individual people within your group.
Okay.
And as they are working on it, you're also seeing that they've worked on it and it's been done. And then it even gives an overview for your executives to be able to know what is going on within the organization and where they need to key into the risk that is more applicable to the business and what they need to do to ensure that that risk is mitigated within the business. So it just makes it a seamless process where you don't have to have documentations. You have it on the platform. The platform helps you summarize the information, and then you are able to have an overview of what is going on in your environment, making it a faster path towards compliance for you.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you discovered was that this was a complex and manual process.
Yes.
It clearly was rigorous and time consuming, and you were then able to capture this process into this business idea that you put together.
Yes.
For our audience, you know, we would like to ask maybe this question. You know, who are you hearing about, Smartcomply for the very first time? How do you describe what you do in simple language at the intersection of digital trust, compliance, and cybersecurity? And I don't know if you already answered that question, but is that more or less exactly what it is? That what you offer, this sort of platform that covers all the bases?
Yes. So let me just give you, so apart from let me just give you a brief on the ecosystem that Smart
Correct.
Comply
Okay.
covers. So Smart Comply is an automated and AI powered digital trust and cybersecurity platform.
Yeah.
And the flagship started with our GRC solution, which we call Secure,
Okay. The double E. Yeah.
SEEQURE.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that focuses on the governance, risk, and compliance part of the business, and also helps with risk management, and then has a element of endpoint protection, which is called SmartGuard. To just give you a general overview of the risk of your organization, whether tied to policy, whether tied to people, whether tied to your devices at the same time. And then we also saw the narrative in the financial space that has to do with anti-fraud monitoring, laundry, or anti-fraud money laundering, sorry, where we also developed a solution that is now a division called Adhere, that is ADHERE,
Yes.
and that focus on having an AML and KYC solution that helps you for fraud prevention. So, in the African space, we have had a lot of incidents where people have been um, getting their money taken out of their accounts without
Correct.
their knowledge. So this helps with the transaction process where it's able to halt such fraudulent transactions before they are taken out. So it checks for anomalies, checks for the behavior pattern. And if it's not relating to how the person normally processes accounts, then it stops it or it alerts so that it's reviewed. And if it's a false positive, it's let go. But if it's a positive, they block it and prevent such transactions from going out. And then we have the Oculus part of the business that focuses on the cyber threat intelligence.
Okay.
So this is more focused on the dark web, brand protection, VIP, executive protection, just making sure that information about yourself or your company is not in the dark space and is not being used for malicious processes. And what we do is that when we see such, we're able to take it down. So there's something called takedown service where you have a particular publication or information in the internet or on the internet and you don't want it there. So we're able to take down such information, and then we're also able to give you feeds or information about your business that is happening in dark space or in the dark web, and also give you recommendations to help address it so that it doesn't affect you as an individual or the business as a whole. And last but not the least, which is the important part of the cybersecurity, is the human element, where we have to make sure that they are trained in terms of building it as a culture for them, building the next set of human firewall, where the humans are able to protect the organization, and at the same time, you're having the tools and policies that are helping to address those narratives. So that's Smart
Fantastic.
Comply as a whole.
Very comprehensive. And when in terms of how this has been built, was this built from the ground by yourselves?
Yes, it was built from the ground by
Yeah. So
ourselves.
the entire stack, how the
Yes.
technology works.
Yes, built by
African
us.
developed for Africa.
Yes.
Fantastic. Now, I have a question here because I think this is really important. What are the unique problems and nuances on the continent that convince you need to have an African-built platform?
Okay, so I would say the major one was in terms of solutions that we have. They are more focused on other um, geolocations problem.
These are the other
They are
global.
not as the other global players. So it's more focused on the European part of it. It's more focused on the US part.
Correct.
We don't have one that actually focus on the African narrative.
Yes.
And that was where we were like, okay, that's for us to build that data
Yes.
that speaks to what is happening in the African space, in the African ecosystem. We need to build a solution that actually addresses what is happening in the African ecosystem. So that's what brought about the development of this solution. So not just focusing on, although yes, it has an element of the global space, but also focused on the African space, addressing the narrative of where we have the rigorous ways in which we do our compliance standard, making it automated, addressing the issues that we're having with anti-fraud money, the anti-fraud money
Correct.
laundering,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
and this has been rampant in most of the fintechs that are coming because they are very fast, they are very innovative, and from them doing that, the bad actors are able to also get themselves into there and able to act on it, whether it's an inside threat or it's from an external
Correct.
perspective. So making sure that the code that we're writing is focusing on what is going on in Africa and is able to pick those anomalies and those narratives that are going on in the African market. That is what um, the solution as a whole focus on, just to make sure that we are catching it and we're addressing it at the same time. So not just speaking, but also acting on the problems at the same time.
Yeah. One of the things, I am also an entrepreneur myself. I mean, I run a digital services company. And I know that one of the challenges sometimes we face, especially with our own homegrown propositions, is this perspective of whether it's good enough, is it robust enough? I see you're smiling. How do you overcome that challenge of convincing, or rather having that conviction and passing that on to your customers that this is indeed the best alternative for them versus buying something from North America, for instance?
Okay, so there have been so many, or in the earlier days, there have been so many encounters like that where we had to prove not just that we are um, building a solution, but that it actually works
Yes.
for our expertise, and that let them know that yes, we have a team of expertise that are able to address this narrative to you, and because of that, we had to open up POCs period where we demo the solutions, then we now give a proof of concept, just let them use the solution and see how it's helping them in their environments, like
And performing at the same time.
at the same time. And we noticed that as people were using it, and the good thing we did was that we didn't open up all the features at once. So just give you a tip of the iceberg for you
Correct.
to see how it's working. And as they were using it, they say, "Oh, we also want to use this other feature on it. Can you
Like turning them
open
on.
this? Can you open this for us?" And as they were seeing that, okay, it was working in their environment, and then them even knowing that they have a team on ground that they can easily reach out to if they have challenges or they need a particular customization just to work in their environments, we are readily available and we assist and get it done for them. It made us start building that credibility, and that was how the name Smartcomply just started rising up, and people started getting interested in the solutions and products that we are pushing out to the market.
Fantastic. Now, maybe this is a bit of a segue from the same question, but
Okay.
if possible, are you able to share any anecdotes of a tough call or pivotal bet that you had to make when you're building Smartcomply? And I'm sure as an entrepreneur and somebody working in your space, there must have been at least one that was very illustrative of how difficult or challenging this can be.
Okay, so I'll give an example. We had a client where, so normally you have a narrative of how you develop your solution,
Correct.
and then you get a particular client that wants to turn it upside down. So said, "Oh, we would like to have this feature. We would like to have this feature. Can you guys build it into the system and let us see how it works?" So the thing about it is that when you get those requests, you also have to remember that it has to fit into the framework in which you have built already. Because what one person's environment wants might not be what another person's environment needs. So at first we had that challenge of having to balance it because we're trying to tell them that we were reliable and we could actually do whatever you're asking us to do. So we're putting all those structures in place. But at the back end, we're seeing that okay, this is messing up with the foundation of what we have built. Then we now had to go back,
Wow.
rethink, and say, okay, based on this client's request, let's have a group discussion and see if it fits with the pipeline. If it does fit with the pipeline, we see how we customize it there and that it doesn't just fit into the solution as a whole. So we can't put a customized feature there where based on whoever the client is, he can customize it to fit his own internal process.
Correct.
Instead of messing up with the structure as a whole. So every client, when they come on the platform, they can go to the customized place and put whatever other structure they want to put into their environment that fits with their process, while the main foundation of the solution itself is still there and intact.
Correct.
So
It wasn't easy.
it wasn't easy. It took a while, but we got a solution to it, and we just said, okay, let's just put a customized part where each person, each organization that have their own process, they can customize it to fit into their process, while we still have our main structure in place.
Fantastic. And this is the thing I always hear when I talk to, say, CIOs talking about, say, deploying an ERP, that quite often what tends to happen, if you think about, say, SAP, they look at sort of what they call a best practice approach.
Yeah.
And what happens then is the organization reorganizes its processes to use SAP versus the other way around, which means to me, one of your advantages is that you're able to take the customer input without compromising the integrity of the core system.
Definitely.
And still give them something customized.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that's one of the advantages of being, African-based, African originated in the way that your business and your proposition is created, right?
Yes.
And that
Very
gives you an
true.
advantage, right?
Yes, it gives us an advantage. Being able to listen to their needs and also giving them a solution to that problem that they need to address at the same time. And the good thing about this is that we go all the way with them. So we go the journey with them. It's not just, oh, we've given you your solution, go handle it yourself. We have a wonderful team of customer support team and implementation team that are working with them round the clock 24/7 just to make sure that they are getting the best of the solution that we've delivered to them.
So I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about your presence in Kenya and East Africa today.
Okay.
You're formally entering the Kenyan market and the region with your Secure Horizon executive breakfast happening today. Why is this the right moment for Smartcomply to make Nairobi a strategic hub for this region?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. So, as we all know, Nairobi is one of the biggest tech hubs, especially in East Africa.
Silicon Savannah.
And also in Africa as a whole. And we've seen the narrative, we've seen the drive, we've seen the innovation. They are pushing that narrative. They are bringing up that technology, and we just say, okay, how can we work with them to ensure that we are also putting that cybersecurity check in place? So not just focusing on, oh, let's tick this as a box that we have done it, but actually building it as a culture in their environment. And that's why I said, okay, let's go to Nairobi. It's one of the biggest tech hub in Africa. Let's go and work with them to drive that narrative, to build that culture, and let them know that cybersecurity is not just an IT problem or is an organization problem. Is a business problem, and at the same time, we can build that culture with you. So that's the focus in Nairobi. And then, of course, definitely the narrative of AI that is going on there. Some people are scared of putting AI into their environment, but we also want to tell them that, yes, AI might have the bad threat actors, but we can also run against them by putting those measures in place to prevent those bad actors from coming in. So that's
one of the funny things, I remember attending a cyber security event last year, is the way that we now have a situation where you have bad actors using AI and good actors or organizations like yours also incorporating AI, because apparently you can't, it's no longer humanly possible to keep up with the threats and the responses. You now need an AI-based framework to do
Yeah.
so. And I imagine that that is also built into your platform.
Yes, definitely. So the AI element is there, but as much as the AI element is there, we still have the human factor that also verifies to ensure that the information or the anomaly is picking up on is correct. So as much as we are driving the AI narrative, we also want to make sure that it's also conforming to what is expected of it to do. And
Yes.
that's why the human element is still there to verify. So in the Kenyan African space, there's been a lot of attacks, whether from the political part or it's from the educational part or the fintechs or the banks. And in order to help address that narrative, as much as we are putting AI in place, we also have to make sure that that human element that verifies what the AI is driving is also there. So it's both the automated and also have the confirmation, which is the human element part of it.
Now, one of the things we know, as you pointed out, is Kenya is one of the most digitally integrated economies on the continent. We are digital first in so many ways. And from your vantage point, we know that Kenya recorded over 4.5 billion cyber threat events in just one quarter and an estimated 29.9 billion in cybercrime losses, which is just massive.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting with Kenyan CEOs, regulators, and other stakeholders, which parts of these numbers really make the room go quiet?
Um, so I would say the 29.9 billion, because that's a lot. In the sense that even that is just what is estimated and not the actual figure.
Many don't report.
Many don't report, exactly. So the few that report, that's what we're getting, but everyone knows what is going on internally. And I think the major shift is to make them not react after the incident, but to be proactive and have it in place before such incidents come to their place. And of course, we have the regulators too that are actively pushing from their end. If you don't want to get fined for not complying to regulatory standards or putting right measures in place, then you also have to address this thing from the board level, and not just from the IT department level.
It's end to end within the organization.
End.
Everyone has to be in that conversation.
Everybody has to be in that conversation.
Fantastic. Now, speaking of conversations, the Secure Horizon is not a mass conference.
Yeah.
It's an intimate, closed door executive breakfast with regulators, banks, fintech founders, and C-suite leaders. What kind of conversations do you want happening in that room today? And what are not happening today in terms of conversations?
So the conversations where I hope we are driving is in terms of where the Kenyan market stands in the cybersecurity space, how the regulators, in terms of the law enforcement and the policymakers, are working hand in hand together to drive that narrative across the East African space. And of course, what are the key points the CEOs and the CISOs have to focus on in the next 24 months, where the regulators will be focusing on and how they'll be driving that initiative into the space. And at the same time, also discussing about the AI challenge and how we can also put solutions in place to address it. So it's not a 90 or 100%, but at least it prevents the risk. So it moves the risk from the high level and brings it down to the low level so that you have right mitigations in place to address it. And then, of course, last but not the least, is to let them know that we are here to partner with them and work with them to ensure that they are not getting those fines that are really heavy, and at the same time helping them to drive the culture within their businesses and not just having it as a checkbox.
Wow. So as you think about Smartcomply's role here, what does success in Kenya look like in, let's say, 2 to 3 years from now for you, but also for the ecosystem in Kenya?
In 2 to 3 years from now, I'm seeing Kenya moving from the manual ways of doing their compliance and putting automation in place. I'm seeing businesses, heads, tops, the board level being more involved in the cybersecurity part of the business, because it's not just an IT information or our IT duties actually from the board risk level. And then another part I'm seeing is in terms of the collaboration between the policymakers and also the innovators being more coordinated in the sense of they are able to develop policies that addresses the narrative within those innovative space and not restricting them from being innovative. So we know our fintechs, they are fast paced. They always want to um, develop something that can be quick, fast, and address your need. But at the same time, they also have to make sure they are putting security by design into what they are doing, policy by design into what they are doing, compliance by design into whatever solution that they are doing. So I'm seeing us having to build that bridge that closes the gap between the policymakers and innovators and driving that culture in the whole East African space.
So one of the things I'd like to discuss with you is the report you're launching this morning
Okay.
that you've worked on with TechCabal called the AI and the Cyber Frontier, Securing East Africa's Digital Future.
Yes.
If you had to pick one headline insight that every Kenyan business leader should remember, what would it be?
One headline from there, that would be on I'm trying to remember.
And it's
The
a
one
lot.
I
It's a
want to
long
focus.
document.
It's a long document. Um,
If not a headline, just a general sense of what is the one takeaway that they should think about from that report?
I think from that report is more of the focus on the threat landscape
Mm,
in Kenya and the East African space, focusing on Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania,
mm,
and letting them see that it's the threat actors are not yet to play. They are here to hit and run. And
mm,
if you are not ready and if you have not put the right measures in place, you will be their victim that they can get in their they can get whatever they need from you. And then another focus I think was in that report is in terms of the threat actors too that has to do with the phishing emails,
mm,
phishing attacks, and also the voice phishing, and also the AI generated deepfakes conversation where you also have to be vigilant. It's not whatever you hear or whatever you see that you act on immediately. You always have
mm.
to do a second verification and confirm before you act.
Wow. So there's one line that stood out to me, and I see that time is a bit short now. That global attackers are shifting from breaking in to logging in. Can you maybe unpack that for our audience and what it means for Kenyan organizations that rely heavily on mobile money and also digital banking? As you know, we are very digital on M-Pesa,
Yeah.
mobile banking. So you're smiling. I'd love to hear this. Yeah.
Okay, so you know the old narratives before was, oh, they would try to get your get your password
Mm,
and then log into your environment or send a phishing link, get you to click on it, and they're able to put a malware into your environment that feeds them information. Now it's no longer like more like that. It's more of they can impersonate you and get into your environment and act as you to actually do the deeds. So it's not more breaking in now. They are now,
they're silently present.
yes. So they're acting as you. You can be a CEO of a top organization and the person will act as you. The tonation, the way you say it, the way you in fact, I'll give an example. There was a particular company where the CEO um, sent a voice note
Yeah.
to the CFO.
Uh-huh.
And exactly the exact way he says it to ask for a request and like
The intonation, the
the
style.
information, the format, the way he says it and directs you to do stuff was the exact way the CFO got it. And he went to release the funds to the particular company. But luckily for him, luckily for them, the fund was a cross-border fund, so they were able to halt it before the person could actually go and withdraw it.
Because it violated a protocol. Everything was done.
Everything was done. So CEO voice phishing to release it. Then there was the aspect of even him acting as a vendor that they needed to pay.
Wow.
The signature was right. The placement of where the signature was supposed to be, the people that needed to sign, everything was right. The only thing that was different that they didn't take note of was there was a dot in between. Okay, so let's say like how we are Smartcomply. Smartcomply is joined together. The person is smart.comply. It was as simple as the dot. But they didn't take note of that. Every other thing was good, even verifying. So normally finance will always verify the accounts, just make sure that it's legitimate. The account was registered with that vendor name.
Wow.
So everything was on
This is
point.
gonna happen.
Yes. So the only thing that happened, the only thing that helped them was they confirmed from the vendor if they were the one that issued that that invoice and that they've made payment. And the vendor was like, I never issued anything. And it was when they got that, because the payment was made the day yesterday. So the following day, just called to say, oh, we've paid. I'll see you at dinner approval, we've paid. And the vendor was like, I didn't request anything. And the CEO was like, he didn't give any approval. And that's where things started going, okay, where did we go wrong here? And they had to start retracing their steps. Yeah, luckily for them, they had a group of team that were in the foreign land that could also do the handiwork, like the groundwork to make sure that the transaction was altered.
Wow.
That was how they were saved from losing half $500,000 in their organization.
Wow.
If not, that money would have gone, and then someone would have definitely taken responsibility for.
And that's a classic example where Smartcomply, your ecosystem of solutions actually caught it.
Yes.
Wow, fantastic. And of course, in that instance, probably there's an internal party who was involved in that, yeah?
Yeah. So, well, definitely there will be an internal party, but it's still something that is still under investigation, just to see what exactly is. But the point is that the first thing we make sure we did was that we stopped transaction from reaching the first the end goal. And now we are now doing the internal investigation just to make sure that we know what exactly is going on.
So with AI, it's getting more and more sophisticated.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, even without AI, just a backstory again about an incident. It could be as simple as code within the infrastructure, and this going back to inside threat, where as when you are coding, you have the minus where it's supposed to be deducted funds from your account, and when you put minus and minus together, it becomes an addition. So instead of deducting, is adding funds to that account.
Wow.
Adding funds to that account, and they're trying to do check and balance, and they were like, okay, this is not equating.
This is code integrity there.
Yes, this is not equating. What's going on? And it was when we now did the rigorous check, okay, what exactly is wrong, was where we now saw that it was as simple as a minus that was causing the whole confusion.
Became a positive.
And then we also saw, we also got the person involved in it, and also gotten apprehended. And of course, definitely the company took over the conversation from there, just make sure that the person was properly punished. And of course, the person lost his job.
As we talk about all the security issues, and I just have a couple more questions for you because I know that you're pressed for time. We have a serious talent bottleneck in Africa, especially in the cybersecurity, cyber threat area. 82% of organizations in the continent report challenges in AI and cybersecurity skills, the highest share of any region globally, meaning Africa as a whole is vulnerable. How does Smartcomply factor talent, training, and capacity building into your model? Because I think it's such a fundamental need.
Yes, it is. So we are very heavy on the training part. And if you can remember at the beginning, I said one of the aspects of Smartcomply, or one of the divisions we have, is the academy division, where we train the next future leaders of cybersecurity army. And what we've done is that with that our platform, we've also been able to build talent pipelines, which we bring into the organization. So they've been trained, they are aware. Now let's get them to do the actual work. So getting them from theory to practical. And because they already know the theoretical part, they're already built with the culture, it's easier for them to just come in and adapt and start working hand in hand with us. So we have a team of experts that we work with, but at the same time, we build the young talents that are able to also start building those systems, start driving that security narrative, and not just in Smartcomply alone. We are building that talent pipeline that other organizations can also feed from. So an organization can come to us and say, "Oh, we need a data analyst or a fraud investigation analyst." I'll say, "Oh, we have a talent pool. Let's do help you with the interviews, and wherever he sees the best fits comes into your organization and helps address that." So apart from us building our own talent pipeline, we're also helping the organization have those talent pipelines that can also help them address those issues.
Yeah, in fact, many of the cybersecurity events, forums, conferences in the last few years I've attended, they usually send off one last call to action at the end. If you have young people around you, whatever age they are, just get them into cybersecurity. There's such a gap that in
Yes.
any of the areas you can get into, you don't even have to be at CISO level.
Mm-hmm.
Just get in, and there is a career for sure because the needs are only going to escalate. On a personal level, how has working at the front lines of digital trust across Africa changed how you live and operate online?
So being at the front line, it's I mean, security first in everything I do. And it's about driving that narrative too, not just business wise, but also personal wise.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as everyone likes to drive I'm more of a person that likes to keep my private from my corporate.
Yes.
There's some people that like to mix that up, but it's not really advisable because we're in the cyber threat space where any information you leave lying there in public space can be used against
Yes,
you
you
one way
are.
or the other. So I try to always push that narrative that as much as possible that you want to put information, don't put information that can be used against you, but put information that can educate instead. And that's how I've been moving so far in all my engagements. And being a woman too in the cyber tech space,
Yeah.
it's a very interesting
Experience, huh?
experience. Yes, and people find it very credible when they say, "Oh, you're actually techie," and I'm like, "Yeah, I started with techie, and now
Fantastic.
we are developing solutions to help address those tech issues that we saw when we were um doing the back work then. Now we are in the front line, listening and addressing those needs because we've been there, we've seen it happen, and now we're providing solutions to help address it.
So, as we're coming to the end of our conversation, I think it'll be really important for you to leave us with some nuggets of wisdom for our Kenyan CEOs, board members, regulators. What's the one action you'd like them to take in the next 90 days that would materially improve their organization's cyber resilience?
In the next 90 days,
The one thing they could do to change everything, potentially.
uh, so I would say that, and I've said it before, don't let it be a checkbox in your organization. Build it as a culture. And if you have the fear of AI and you've not started using AI, then you are really putting yourself in a deep dish because threat actors are using AI and they are using it and they are using it fast and quick. You also have to adopt AI, build a solution that has AI embedded in it to help you address those risks that are tied to AI. And last but not least, never put regulation as a second guess or a second work that you have to put in place. Ensure that you are putting security as a design in all you do. Ensure you are putting compliance as a design in all you do. Ensure you are putting um you're putting policy
Yes.
as a design in all you do. And when you have those three checks in place, then it makes it seamless for you to be able to scale and innovate as much as you want because everything is already in place and you're putting those security measures in place and you're addressing the risk applicable to your business at the same time. And last but not least, don't treat cybersecurity as an IT problem. It's a board
Ah.
problem.
And as we learn, it's a human in the loop factor that sometimes is the biggest weakness. Yeah.
Weakness, yes. Human, as I always say, is your like how we have the network firewall. We have people as our human firewall. Educate your users, educate your people so that they can prevent those threat actors from community environment, because one weak link can bring down a whole organization.
And my very, very, very last question. For a young professional in Nairobi or Lagos who is fascinated with AI and cybersecurity but doesn't know where to start, what path would you recommend they take over the next 12 to 24 months?
I would say start with the foundation, cybersecurity foundation. Um, if you don't have the insight or the basic knowledge about cybersecurity, start with cybersecurity foundation, which gives you a broader um, aspect of what cybersecurity is all about. And then from there, you can now shift to, okay, do I want to focus on the technical part? Do I want to focus on the programming part? Or do I want to focus on the policy parts,
Okay.
where you're building the policies and guidelines, which is helping to address the technology and the people aspect of it. So, yes.
Is that a beautiful thing that there's so many pathways and you can just choose what works for
Yes,
you?
it's a beautiful thing. I mean, some people will hear cybersecurity, especially for ladies, and you're thinking, oh,
Mhm.
it's a man world, it's technical. I can't get involved in that. But surprisingly, there's a compliance space where women are actually actively involved in, where they are putting policies in place. They are because of the fact that they are more rigorous and more how will I put it, more structured.
Yeah.
They're able to see, okay, what is missing within the organization, what are the solutions we need to put in place. They organize a team, they talk about it together, and then they're able to bring up a process that works for the organization as a whole. So what I just want to say is that cybersecurity is not all technical. There's the documentation part, which has to do with the policy part. There's the coding part, which has to do with putting the code in place for the solutions that you're using to address this need. And there's the technical part of it, where you're overseeing those solutions and making sure that you're also feeding the information needed to those solutions, and also working with the information given by the solution to address the narrative and also put the right mitigation in place. So it's wide, it's a lot. And it's not, I mean, you can never go wrong if you go into cybersecurity, because everyone has an aspect of cybersecurity that you'll fit into.
Personal and business as well. Yeah.
Business.
Gbemisola, this has been a great conversation. I think we've gone from your personal journey. I mean, also as a tech founder who's a lady, it's so fantastic what you're doing.
Thank
I
you
love
so
the
much.
fact that you're doing the Pan-African, reach, coming out to Nairobi, trying to bring what you've been achieving, in parts like Nigeria here. You've also unpacked the realities in Kenya. It's pretty bad on the ground. Our cyber risk landscape is horrible, as you pointed out. And really, we're going to be able to explore your new AI and cyber frontier report that you're releasing today. And I think what you made very clear about is that cybersecurity is everyone's problem.
Yes.
It's not, an IT department issue, a CEO issue. It's a board issue. It cascades across the entire organization. I think for me, the one that scares me the most is the SMEs and the individuals who are really not equipped in terms of they don't know what they don't know. And I think going out and getting that knowledge has become an incredibly important thing. And I think as you release this report today, I think we're all going to benefit, especially given that it's an African first perspective,
Yes.
as opposed to something from Europe or the US. It's something that is local or to the continent. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I think one of the things we'll do is obviously we'll share as part of this podcast a link where they can download the report, learn a bit more, and hopefully they can reach out to you and your organization as well. Speaking of which, if they want to get in touch with you online or your organization, where can they find you?
So Smartcomply is www.smartcomply.com. And then if you want to send email, you can send email to info@smartcomply.com or cs@smartcomply.com.
Thank you so much, Gbemisola, and all the best for today's launch,
Thank you
and
so
all the
much.
best in entering the East African market.
Thank you.